Get ready, because what's coming in the next few days won't be subtle. It's not here to gently tap you on the shoulder and ask you to change. It's going to strike where it hurts, shake what you thought was stable, and unravel the illusions you've clung to for too long. And while that might sound intense, that's exactly the kind of energy this moment demands. Saturn has officially entered retrograde, and whether you're emotionally or spiritually prepared for it or not, the tides of your life are about to turn in ways you didn't see coming. This isn't just another planetary shift. This is Saturn, the great teacher, the karmic judge, stepping back and reviewing everything you've built, believed, and buried. It's not asking for surface-level change. It's not interested in temporary fixes. It wants transformation. Deep, unshakable, soul-level evolution. And that means it will start by breaking what is false. You might already feel the tremors. Maybe you've had an uncomfortable conversation, a strange sense of detachment from your routines, or a nagging thought that something in your life just isn't right anymore. Maybe something you used to love suddenly feels lifeless. Or maybe you're sensing that a big decision is creeping closer, one that you can't delay much longer. That's Saturn, not lurking in the shadows to scare you, but standing with a mirror, asking you to see clearly, perhaps for the first time in a long while. What's one truth you've had to face recently? Something that's been sitting at the edge of your awareness, just waiting to be acknowledged? If you feel open to sharing, write it down, speak it aloud, or even leave it in the comments as a way of energetically releasing it. Adding 777 beside your truth can be a powerful signal to yourself and the universe that you're ready to align with the energy of this retrograde, to walk through the fire and come out reshaped. And if you're still trying to convince yourself that you're in control right now, if you're gripping tightly onto routines, roles, and relationships that no longer fit, you're about to be reminded that control is an illusion. Something much larger than your plans has taken over. And it's not concerned with comfort. It's not here to maintain appearances. It's here to set you free. And sometimes, freedom begins with chaos. Saturn's retrograde is often misunderstood as a time of restriction or punishment. But in truth, it's a deep, spiritual purge. It begins by dismantling the places in your life where you've grown too comfortable, where you've settled for less, stayed silent for too long, or convinced yourself that fine was good enough. And when Saturn starts that process, it's swift. Don't be surprised if the rug is pulled out from underneath you with no warning. A job you thought was secure might disappear. A friend might ghost you without explanation. An income stream you relied on might dry up overnight. These events aren't here to destroy you. They're here to wake you up. They're not punishments, but liberations. Saturn isn't trying to ruin your life. It's refusing to let you keep numbing yourself with routines and roles that no longer reflect who you are becoming. This is the kind of pain that breaks illusions, not your spirit. It's the raw discomfort that saves you from sleepwalking through a life that doesn't fit anymore. And for many, this will feel like being evicted from your own story, as if the life you wrote for yourself is suddenly closing its pages without your consent. That's because Saturn doesn't tiptoe around your ego. It rips off the bandage, demolishes the lies, and begins building something real in the space that's left behind. Soon, if not already, you'll find yourself facing a decision that holds serious weight. A decision that could cost you comfort, relationships, or even the identity you've built. You won't be able to be both authentic and universally accepted anymore. That mask you've worn, the one that smiles politely, blends in, avoids conflict, is becoming too heavy to carry. And this retrograde is going to make you choose your carefully curated image or your soul's raw truth. You don't get to keep both. Before we move ahead in the video, I want to let you know that if you've gained even a little value from my efforts, please consider donating through Super Thanks or via PayPal. It really helps motivate and inspire us to keep going. There's a fracture line beginning to open, and it's separating the life you present to the world from the life your soul is quietly aching to live. Maybe that divide has only been a whisper until now, a subtle intuition, a mild discontent, a sense of quiet grief over the parts of yourself you've silenced. But Saturn is turning up the volume. That whisper is becoming a roar, and it won't stop until you listen. This is a call to stop performing, to stop playing nice at the expense of your truth, to stop seeking applause when what you really need is alignment. The truth is, many of us have become addicted to approval. Not connection, not love, just validation. And in that pursuit, we've become versions of ourselves that are acceptable, but not authentic. The compliant one, the peacemaker, the achiever, the performer. But trying to hold on to both your soul and your image is a battle you can't keep fighting. And Saturn knows this, so it will begin creating friction, emotional tension, misunderstandings in relationships, breakdowns in communication, burnout that won't go away. It will keep pressing until something gives. And if you don't make the hard choices yourself, Saturn will make them for you. When it does, the people who were only ever clapping for the performance will start to disappear. That may feel lonely at first, but it's not abandonment. It's release. It's clarity. It's the beginning of a life where you don't have to shrink to be seen. What's coming next is no longer about what others think of you. It's about what your karma thinks of you. Every moment you chose comfort over courage. Every shortcut you took when no one was watching. Every promise you made to yourself and then quietly broke. Saturn remembers. And now, those echoes are returning, not to shame you, but to offer you the opportunity to choose differently this time. This is not about punishment. This is not divine revenge. This is you, circling back to parts of your story that were left unfinished. The conversations you avoided, the opportunities you were too scared to take, the dreams you left untouched because they asked too much of you. Saturn brings all of it back to the surface, not as a haunting, but as a second chance. So if you're noticing strange patterns, a job interview that keeps getting delayed, a person from your past reappearing, or a dream that keeps slipping just out of reach, know that it's not coincidence. It's your past echoing forward. It's unhealed patterns repeating until you finally decide to close the loop. It's not that you're cursed. It's that your soul is being held accountable by your own history. Saturn doesn't work through flattery. It doesn't sugarcoat the truth. It exposes, it reveals, it turns the spotlight on the parts of your life you thought were hidden and makes you look. Not to shame you, but to free you. And if life feels unfair, too heavy, or inexplicably complicated right now, ask yourself this: who did I become when I thought no one was watching? Because now, the one watching is you, and karma isn't some far-off cosmic reckoning. It's the mirror held up by your own choices, your own patterns, your own actions. This retrograde is not a punishment. It's a mirror. And through it, you're being asked to see with brutal honesty. The masks are cracking, the roles are dissolving, and the light is landing, not where you expected it to, but exactly where it's needed. You're standing in the middle of your greatest illusion, the persona you've carefully crafted, the mask you've worn so well, now beginning to peel. And Saturn, the relentless teacher of the cosmos, has been waiting for precisely this moment. This retrograde isn't just a slow planetary motion. It's an unraveling, a cosmic detox, a forced shedding of everything you've pretended to be. It's not about gentle nudges or subtle whispers anymore. This is Saturn at its most ruthless and revelatory. It doesn't care for how good your story sounds. It wants the truth, raw, unfiltered, and painfully honest. If you've been faking it, Saturn is making sure you won't be making it. Not this time, not like this. This isn't punishment, but exposure. Those who have climbed to prominence on half-truths, charisma without substance, or borrowed wisdom are now being called to the front of the class. Not for applause, but for correction. Coaches, mentors, influencers, even spiritual leaders, no one is exempt. The spotlight is shifting, and it's mercilessly illuminating every crack, every inconsistency, every glossy facade. And this isn't happening behind closed doors. It's unfolding out in the open, where illusions don't stand a chance, and ego takes its deepest wounds. But this isn't about shaming or destruction for the sake of cruelty. It's a sacred dismantling. It's ego death, not as a punishment, but as a rite of passage. That polished version of yourself, the one that always had a clever response, always seemed put together, always seemed a step ahead. That version is starting to crumble. And beneath that collapsing image, all the things you've tried to keep hidden are rising to the surface. The moments of insecurity masked as productivity, the burnout you've camouflaged with ambition, the fragile sense of control you've kept balanced on unstable habits. It's all being revealed now, not to break you, but to finally allow the real you to breathe. Because false confidence may burn brightly, but it doesn't burn long. Real strength, real power, those are forged in fire. And this retrograde is the fire. For many, it means coming face to face with the lies you've been telling yourself. You said you were at peace. You said you were ready. You said you were aligned. But your reality is no longer mirroring those words. And Saturn doesn't let you lie to your own soul. Not now. Not anymore. This is the point when the applause starts to fade. The audience, the people who used to cheer for your curated identity, stops clapping. They're not impressed by performance anymore. They're craving sincerity, presence, something real. And yes, the fall from that pedestal you've placed yourself on can be brutal. But it's also sacred. Because when the ego falls, it makes room for the true self to rise. Stumbling maybe, but finally authentic, finally grounded. And here's the truth Saturn doesn't let you ignore. If you don't consciously shape your habits, they will unconsciously shape your downfall. Saturn doesn't care what your intentions were. It cares about your systems, your rituals, your patterns. It cares about what you actually do every day, not what you dream about, not what you talk about. Every unconscious routine, every indulgent distraction, every just this once moment. Saturn brings all of them into full view. The habits you thought you were managing are now managing you, and they are driving, full speed, straight into consequences. This retrograde draws a line in the sand. The version of you that has skated by on partial discipline and wishful thinking is being retired. You're either in control of your impulses, or they will orchestrate your undoing. This is where dreams unravel because of unchecked procrastination, where financial slips turn into burdens, where one impulsive night becomes a domino of chaos. Saturn doesn't test your dreams. It tests your discipline. It doesn't ask if you want more. It asks whether you've built a life capable of holding more. You don't rise to the height of your potential. You fall to the depth of your patterns. And no, Saturn isn't asking you to become robotic or flawless overnight. This isn't a call for perfection, but for awareness. It's asking whether the life you say you want is actually supported by the way you live each day. Are your choices building your future or sabotaging it? Are your rituals reinforcing your vision or quietly draining your energy? Because Saturn takes those invisible costs, the time wasted, the health ignored, the goals deferred, and makes them tangible. You'll feel it in your body, in your bones, in your mind. Exhaustion, overwhelm, emotional weight. It's not all in your head. It's architectural. You're being shown the structure you've built with your actions. It's either strong enough to support you, or it's collapsing under its own inconsistencies. No one is exempt from this examination. Not you. Not anyone. You don't get to bypass the lesson. The ones who resist will spiral, caught in the whirlpool of denial, excuse, and ego. But the ones who reflect, who get brutally honest and start making real changes, they rise. Not perfectly, but powerfully. There is no middle ground anymore. Either you take control, or your comfort zone takes you down. Look around. Your relationships have become reflections. Every interaction is a lesson. Every strange shift in energy a signal. Arguments aren't just arguments anymore. They're Saturn's curriculum. Distance, tension, cold shoulders, unexplained irritation. None of it is random. You're surrounded by emotional mirrors. The universe is using people to teach you about yourself. Every friend who fades away isn't abandoning you. They're making space. Every relative who pushes your buttons is Saturn pressing on your old programming. That person who drains your energy even though they haven't changed, they haven't shifted. You've just outgrown their frequency. This is the diagnostic phase of the retrograde, and your relationships are revealing who truly supports your evolution and who depends on your stagnation. You'll start to notice certain patterns repeating. Same arguments in different costumes, familiar disappointment showing up with new faces, déjà vu moments that feel a little too precise. That's Saturn holding up the mirror and asking, "Have you learned this yet?" And that person who talks down to you, who subtly disrespects you, who makes you question your worth. That's not just them being rude. That's Saturn pointing at a wound. That's the universe saying, you don't have to absorb this anymore. These aren't just frustrating people. They are karmic messengers. They're bringing to light the energies you've tolerated, the dynamics you've normalized, the old emotional scripts you've never questioned. Some people were never meant to walk with you into your next chapter. They were placed in your life to teach you what you no longer need to carry. They were the contrast required for clarity, the discomfort required for redirection. They were meant to activate the part of you that finally chooses better, not out of bitterness, but out of truth. So now the question becomes, are you willing to let go of what's comfortable in order to become what's possible? Are you ready to stop curating an image and start cultivating a foundation? Saturn's retrograde isn't punishing you. It's calling you forward. It's saying, enough with the illusions, enough pretending, enough waiting. This is the breaking open before the becoming, the burning down before the rebuild. And if it hurts, let it hurt. If it's uncomfortable, sit with it. Growth doesn't arrive neatly wrapped. Sometimes it crashes through your life like a storm. But that storm is sacred. It's clearing space. It's revealing what's real. And when the dust settles, the only thing left standing will be the version of you that's actually true. Sometimes, the people who show up in your life aren't there to hurt you. They're there to reflect something back to you. That friend who always needs saving, who always seems to be in chaos, who leans on you like you're their only lifeline. They may not be the problem. What they actually reflect is a deeper, quieter part of you that still doubts your own worth. A part of you that's become used to neglecting your own needs just to keep the peace. A part of you that believes your value is tied to how much you give, how much you fix, or how much you're willing to lose for someone else. The truth is, they are mirrors, not burdens. And those mirrors, especially now, are revealing everything you've been trying to avoid. You might feel like your world is shaking a little, maybe a lot. Certain relationships are beginning to fade or feel hollow, like echoes of what they used to be. It's disorienting when people you once saw as permanent start to drift into the background. Their presence still there, but no longer touching your spirit the way they used to. You may find yourself grieving relationships that haven't technically ended, but spiritually, emotionally, they've already left the room. It can feel like loss. It can feel like failure. But it's neither. What you're experiencing now is Saturn's hand, subtle and steady, pruning your life with surgical precision. It's not about punishment. It's about alignment. Saturn doesn't rip people away from you to make you suffer. It clears the noise, the static, the attachments that have silently been weighing you down. It's making space, real space, for what actually supports your growth, your evolution, and your true path. Some of the connections you've held onto weren't meant to last forever. They were contracts, karmic agreements. You met, you learned, and now the cycle is complete. Trying to force them to stay past their expiration is like trying to wear a pair of shoes you've outgrown. They'll only blister your feet and slow you down. The pain you're feeling isn't cruelty. It's guidance. Even betrayal, that sharp sting you never saw coming, is timed perfectly to show you the truth you were too loyal or too afraid to acknowledge. Every loss right now is a turning point, and Saturn, ever the cosmic teacher, is watching not just what you feel, but what you choose to do with those feelings. When someone disappears, when you're triggered or exhausted by another person's presence, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What is this showing me about myself?" Because nothing in this retrograde is random. Everyone in your life is playing a role in your transformation. No one is extra. No one is irrelevant. Everyone is a part of your evolution, whether through love, challenge, or the sharp nudge that finally gets you to let go. You can't bypass the process anymore. Not with positivity, not with a well-designed vision board, not with another motivational quote. Saturn is asking for more. It's asking for sacrifice. Not because it's cruel, but because it knows what's on the other side. And what's on the other side is real success. Not the kind that looks shiny on the outside but leaves you feeling hollow. Real, grounded, legacy-building success. But to get there, you have to prove something, not to Saturn, but to yourself. Saturn doesn't care how badly you want the dream. It wants to know what you're willing to give up for it. What old identity are you still clinging to because it feels safe? What old habits are you still defending even though they're draining your energy? Are you willing to lose the need for validation? Are you willing to lose your comfort zone? Because this journey demands real, uncomfortable, inconvenient choices, and Saturn will not let you skip them. Success right now is wrapped not in glory, but in grit. It doesn't come with a parade. It comes with long nights, with early mornings, with silence, with showing up even when you feel unseen. It looks like putting in the work when motivation is nowhere to be found. It looks like making that difficult phone call, starting that long overdue project, taking that terrifying leap. Saturn's asking you to stop fantasizing about your dream life and start building it brick by uncomfortable brick. There's a kind of strength being born in you right now, a deep, steady strength that only shows up when you're under pressure. Saturn isn't here to break you. It's here to build a version of you that doesn't crumble under resistance. One who moves even when no one is cheering. One who keeps going when everything in them screams to quit. One who stops waiting for ideal conditions and instead becomes the force that creates momentum. And let's be honest, there will be days when it's going to feel like too much. The temptation to numb out, to quit, to go back to the familiar will be strong. But that's exactly when Saturn speaks the loudest. That's when it whispers the truth you most need to hear. This pain is not punishment, it's confirmation. Confirmation that you are near something real, something lasting, something that won't vanish when you stop chasing it, because it's already rooted in who you've become. So if you've been waiting for the right time to start, stop. This is the right time. This retrograde doesn't delay your destiny. It compresses it. It removes the fluff, the distractions, the indulgent waiting games. It demands honesty. Honesty about your work ethic, your commitment, and the ways you've been sabotaging your own path under the illusion of waiting for the right moment. The time isn't later. It's now. There's no magic wand coming to lift you out of confusion. What's coming is accountability. And if you rise to that challenge, if you show up despite the fear, if you sacrifice not just your comfort, but your excuses, then Saturn delivers something even better than a quick win. It delivers a legacy, a foundation that no one can shake, a purpose so solid you no longer have to chase. It starts chasing you. But to get there, you have to earn it. You have to bleed for it. You have to be willing to lose everything that isn't truly meant for you. This isn't a punishment. It's a threshold, a doorway. But it doesn't stay open forever. That's the part most people miss. They think they have time. They think they can keep circling the same thoughts, avoiding the same actions, convincing themselves that next month or next season will be better. But Saturn's retrograde doesn't reward delay. It watches who moves with urgency, not fear-based panic, but soul-based precision. It watches who acts even when no one is clapping yet. There's a window open right now, but it's shrinking. And if you don't step through, you might find one day that it's not just closing, it's gone. And with it, an opportunity that may not come again. This isn't about punishment. It's about activation. Saturn is trying to wake you up in ways the soft moments never could. So that inner whisper, the one that jolts you awake at 2 a.m. saying, "Do it now," listen to that. That's not anxiety. That's guidance. That person you can't stop thinking about. That step you keep putting off. That idea that won't leave you alone. These aren't coincidences. They're Saturn's way of shaking you out of sleep. The truth is, most people don't miss their calling because they fail. They miss it because they freeze. They wait. They hesitate. They doubt. And by the time they're ready, the moment has passed. This retrograde may feel slow, like nothing is really changing. But don't let that fool you. It's a test hidden in disguise. It's asking, how will you move when you think no one is watching? Will you still show up with purpose? Will you still follow through when everything feels stuck? Because Saturn is watching. And it's not interested in your dreams unless you're willing to match them with discipline, with sacrifice, with truth. So don't wait. Don't stall. Don't second-guess the fire building in your chest. There are moments in life that don't come with a countdown. No calendar reminder, no blinking sign. Just an unfolding of time, quiet and subtle, while you're caught up preparing for a date you were never actually given. And while you're getting all your ducks in a row, telling yourself you'll take the leap soon, the window may already be closing. That opportunity, the one your soul's been quietly craving, might not be waiting much longer. Not because it wasn't meant for you, but because you hesitated. You lingered too long in planning mode. You stood at the edge calculating the jump, never realizing that some chances aren't about precision. They're about presence. This isn't about punishment. The universe doesn't operate in cruelty, and Saturn, stern as it is, isn't here to hurt you. But Saturn does deal in truth. It doesn't negotiate with fear or wait for you to be 100% ready. It doesn't respond to procrastination wrapped in perfectionism. There's a certain threshold where the lesson becomes unavoidable. And when Saturn retrograde hits, it doesn't show up with gentle nudges or polite whispers. It shows up with a mirror and a reckoning. It rips the veil right off your eyes and asks you to look, really look, at the life you've been building and ask yourself if it's really yours. Right now, someone reading this has been stalling, waiting for the perfect sign, the divine green light, the magical certainty that makes the next step feel safe. This is your sign, not in a dreamy, romanticized sense, not as a beautifully timed affirmation or a comforting synchronicity, but in Saturn's language, the kind that doesn't sugarcoat. This is the moment. You either move or you miss it. And once it passes, there's no begging the universe for a replay. Saturn doesn't do do-overs. It deals in outcomes, in cause and effect, in cosmic receipts. So ask yourself with honesty, are you hesitating because it truly isn't time, or because deep down you know it is, and that scares the hell out of you? Because life doesn't wait on our fears. It moves. And if you don't move with it, someone else will step into that space. And you'll be left not with punishment, but with the silence of what could have been. With the memory of a door you almost walked through but didn't. With the ghost of a version of you that was too afraid to rise. We all build identities. Little by little, we piece them together from what we think the world wants from us, who we think we need to be to feel loved, respected, accepted. But those identities often turn into masks, well-crafted, polished, convincing, until they aren't. And Saturn is not impressed by your costume. It's not interested in how well you've played the part. It's here to tear it down. The title you worked so hard to earn, the reputation you've been curating, the lifestyle you told yourself would finally bring peace. It's all up for review now. And not softly. Not with warnings, with a crack. One clean, unavoidable crack right down the middle. Because this isn't just about shedding a few bad habits or tweaking your routine. This is an identity death. A full-on, soul-level transformation. The kind that feels less like progress and more like disintegration. That job you once prayed for? You dread it now? That 5-year plan you poured everything into? It no longer feels like you. And Saturn retrograde isn't letting you look away anymore. It's holding up a raw, unfiltered mirror and asking, is this really who you are? Not the you from your Instagram stories. Not the one who always pretends to be strong. But the real you, the version that shows up when the lights go out and the pressure's on. And here's the truth. Many people right now are realizing they've been living as someone they no longer are. They've outgrown the personality, the labels, the dreams. But instead of letting go, They keep trying to squeeze into a version of themselves that no longer fits. And Saturn? Saturn starts pulling the thread. It starts subtly. Maybe you feel bored, uninspired, restless. Then it gets louder. Burnout, disconnect, deep emotional exhaustion, until finally, something breaks, and you're left staring at the ruins of a life that no longer aligns. It's not a failure. It's a breakthrough, one disguised as collapse. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are simply out of alignment with a truth that is trying to emerge. And that's the most painful part. The in-between. The void. The strange liminal space where your old self has faded, but the new self hasn't yet arrived. You feel empty, lost, maybe even invisible, like a blank page waiting for new words. But you can't fake your way through this phase anymore. Saturn won't let you wear old masks, and it won't let you rush ahead just to escape the discomfort. If you try to go back to who you were, the universe slams the door. If you try to push forward with no clarity, everything feels blocked. So you're left with stillness, with surrender, with honesty so sharp it cuts through denial. And that's exactly where the magic begins. Saturn's work doesn't happen in the hustle. It happens in the quiet. In the moments you finally stop asking, "How do I look?" and start asking, "Does this feel like me?" Don't be surprised if the things that once thrilled you now leave you numb. You're not losing your passion. You're remembering your essence. You're waking up to the truth that applause doesn't bring peace. That being admired means nothing if you've abandoned yourself to earn it. That wearing an identity for approval costs far more than you ever realized, because chasing external validation is draining. But living in authenticity, that's freedom, that's peace, that's effortless. This season isn't here to destroy you. It's here to return you, to realign you, to clear the debris of everything you built on shaky ground. Saturn doesn't strip away what's true. It removes what isn't. It dissolves the illusions, the false personas, the borrowed dreams. And yes, it can feel brutal. It can feel like loss. But beneath the grief is something holy. A rebirth. A new self, forged not by fear or expectation, but by soul-deep truth. So no, this isn't about punishment or failure. This is your awakening, your moment of radical self-honesty, the shedding of skins that were never truly yours. And yes, it may sting. You may mourn versions of yourself that once felt real. You may grieve dreams that no longer resonate. But through that grief comes clarity, power, peace. This is not the end. This is the beginning of your most honest life yet. One that doesn't need performance, perfection, or permission. One where your soul finally feels at home in your body. One where you don't have to try so hard to be seen because you're no longer hiding. Reinventing yourself isn't about becoming someone else. It's not about striving to mold yourself into a new image or trying to chase some perfected version of you. It's about releasing everything you never truly were to begin with. It's about the sacred unraveling, the unlearning, the slow and sometimes painful shedding of false identities, outdated dreams, and roles you picked up not because they reflected who you are, but because they helped you survive. So if you find yourself standing in the ruins of a life that no longer makes sense, if your ambitions feel hollow, if the goals you once chased now leave you feeling numb, if your carefully crafted vision of the future suddenly seems irrelevant, pause for a moment. Don't rush to fix it. Don't scramble to replace the void. That uncertainty, that inner chaos, that collapse you're witnessing, it's sacred. It's not a breakdown. It's a spiritual deconstruction. That's Saturn doing its work, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Saturn isn't destroying your life. It's clearing the stage. It's sweeping away the illusions and distractions so that you can make your real entrance. Not the version of you that's been edited for approval. Not the version of you performing for love, success, or safety. But the raw, unfiltered, deeply authentic you. The version that's been waiting behind the curtains, buried under masks and survival strategies. You're not falling apart. You're stepping out of costume. You're peeling away the armor. And what's emerging now is the undeniable truth of who you are beneath the layers. But here's the part no one warns you about. The truth doesn't always arrive softly. The universe doesn't always send signs through sweet whispers or trusted mentors. Sometimes it comes like a thunderclap. Sometimes it sends the message through the most unlikely messengers. People you've written off. People who rub you the wrong way. People you'd never choose to learn from. And yet, it's through them that the sharpest wisdom arrives. Not wrapped in eloquence, not wrapped in validation. Sometimes it arrives with clumsy words, messy energy, even aggravation. You might feel a sting in your chest when they speak. You might feel defensive, irritated, even angry. But take a closer look, because sometimes that sting isn't rejection. It's recognition. This is Saturn in retrograde. This is when the teacher shows up in forms your ego will immediately want to reject. A stranger's comment online, a snide remark from a coworker, a joke from someone who doesn't know the whole story, a pointed criticism from someone you've already labeled toxic. And it lands. Not because they're enlightened, not because they're right about everything, but because there's just enough truth in what they say to cut through your defenses. That's what makes it powerful and painful. You'll want to brush it off. You'll want to call it cruel or uncalled for. And maybe it is. But if you can quiet your pride just long enough to ask, why did that trigger me so much? You'll find something golden beneath the discomfort. You'll find the buried wound, the soft spot you've been protecting, the truth you've been avoiding. Saturn doesn't waste time on packaging. It doesn't care if the messenger is graceful or respected. It only cares about the message landing where it needs to. That's why it uses chaos, conflict, and contrast as tools for awakening. It weaponizes the overlooked and underestimated. Because if the goal is to shake you awake, it's not going to come through polite applause. It's going to come through friction. And that friction is where your power begins to return. The real test in moments like this isn't about whether the person delivering the message is qualified. It's about whether you're willing to extract truth from the mess. Whether you're strong enough to hear the medicine even when it's delivered in a way that bruises your ego. That's the deeper challenge. Can you be so devoted to your own evolution that even your least favorite people become catalysts for your growth? Because here's what most people miss. The people you resist the most often hold up the clearest mirror. Their reflections might be uncomfortable, but that discomfort is data. It reveals where you're still shackled by old stories, where your identity is still too fragile, where your self-worth is still entangled with your image. This retrograde isn't asking you to be perfect. It's not even asking you to be polished. It's asking you to be honest, to be courageous enough to sit in the discomfort of inconvenient truths, to be humble enough to learn from any source, even those you once dismissed. Growth doesn't always come from safe spaces. Healing doesn't always wear white robes and speak in soothing tones. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come through sarcasm, through snark, through the voice of someone who doesn't even realize they're channeling something higher. That's the paradox of divine messages. They're often delivered by those with no idea they're playing a role in your awakening. So if it stings, look again. If it triggers you, pause. If someone's words hit a nerve, don't just react. Reflect. Ask yourself, what truth am I being asked to face? What part of me is still trying to hide behind performance? What illusion is cracking under pressure? That's the Saturn doorway. That's the threshold between who you were and who you're meant to be. And you only walk through it by releasing your need to be right, to be liked, to be validated. You walk through it by choosing to evolve, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it hurts. This is your moment to stop defending the version of you that was built for survival. This is your moment to meet the you that's built for expansion. Let them mock you. Let them misjudge you. Let the words come, however they come. If there's a sliver of truth in them, hold it. Let it break something open. Let it show you where you've been playing small. Because in this retrograde, Saturn isn't just clearing the stage, it's calling your soul to the front. And when that happens, you'll stop needing permission. You'll stop waiting for the right messenger. You'll hear the truth in unexpected places and still recognize it as truth. That's power. That's alignment. That's transformation. So listen with your soul, not your ego. Let discomfort be your compass. Let resistance point you toward the lesson. You're being refined, not rejected. You're being redirected, not punished. And on the other side of this chaos is you. The real you. Undeniable. Unmasked. And finally, free. If you've made it this far, thank you for staying open. Thank you for showing up for your own growth, even when it's hard. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Your presence here matters more than you know. And if you feel called to share your experience, your insights, or the truth you're currently facing, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Until we meet again, stay grounded, stay true, and remember, sometimes the most uncomfortable truth is the exact doorway you've been praying for. Don't miss it.